Right guys, boxing gossip here for you on a weekend roundup video. Let me start by saying that there's going to be a further video that I do later tonight on the Roman Gonzalez fight, Chocolatito, who suffered a loss at the weekend. We may do another video discussing the Golovkin fight as well. So those are all going to come out in the next 24 hours. But just for this particular one, I wanted to discuss some of the headlines and some of the big results from the weekend's action. And I wanted to start by talking about a fight that pretty massively flew under the radar. To be honest, actually a fight that I hadn't even had any appreciation that was actually on, and I presume many of you are in the same boat. This was reported by the boxingwales.com website, boxingwales.com, and it's all over the Twitter sphere at present. But Liam Smith has secret fight in Spain 3 weeks before date with Liam Williams, and this article is dated yesterday. So Liverpool's Liam Smith had a secret fight in Barcelona, Spain, just 3 weeks before his date against Liam Williams. The unpublicised bout took place in the gym, and the 28-year-old won the 4-rounder against Romanian middleweight Marian Kazuku, whose record was 2 wins, 38 losses and 1 draw. It is understood that Smith has been due to take part in a routine outing on 28th of January, but that did not happen. Instead, it took place last night, and astonishingly close to his fight against Williams at the Manchester Arena on Saturday the 8th of April. So there we go. What a bizarre sport this boxing is. Liam Smith, in his last fight, he entered the ring as reigning world champion. He fought probably the biggest name in world boxing, Saul Canelo Alvarez. This weekend, in a fight that nobody even knew about, he stepped out in a gym in Spain and fought a 4-rounder against a guy he'd lost 38 times. Now, one would expect the real reason for this bout actually taking place is that Frank Warren is hoping to get a version of the WBO title on the line for when Liam Smith fights Liam Williams, and there is a rule that Liam Smith could not fight for that title at the minute as he was coming off a loss to Canelo. You know, you've got to get a win in before you're eligible to fight for the title. So I don't think that's been confirmed. I don't know if it's an interim title. You know, it's obviously up in the air at present. But clearly they must have been motivated by something to take this bizarre fight out in Spain. It's certainly not going to be for the money. One would have to assume that Liam Smith was getting paid. And these fights are always very, very risky. They always make me feel uncomfortable because clearly Smith was in against a very overmatched opponent, you know. And I've seen a little clip of the fight, and you know, Smith was adopting a very safety first approach. But this is boxing. You know, this is a dangerous sport. It's a violent sport. Liam Smith could have punched this guy in small gloves and hurt his hands. You know, there could have been a clash of heads, and there could have been a cut sustained. You know, Liam Smith sustained a big cut in advance of the Canelo fight. He doesn't want to be going into another big fight with a bit of injury. But anyway, Liam Smith's got through, and you know, the fight is going to take place against Liam Williams, you know, in 3 or 4 weeks. You do have to question the management of Liam Smith here. Surely you would have put him on a 4-rounder and an undercard, or, you know, at some point in the past, rather than making him fly out to Spain a few weeks before the second biggest fight of his career. You know, to me it seems very, very bizarre. And what a dubious and strange sport boxing is, if in order to fight for a world title, you've got to fly out to Spain and fight a 4-rounder against a guy with 38 losses. You know, I understand why they have a rule that you have to be coming off a win, but surely if they let you fight for a world title having beaten a guy of that standard, they may as well get rid of the requirement to have a win, because it seems meaningless. So Liam Smith returned this weekend, as did Andy Lee, another former world champion. Andy Lee fought on the Golovkin undercard in an 8-rounder. I haven't watched the fight, but he won a fairly wide points decision. I think the 3 judges, one of them scored every round to Andy Lee, and the other judges scored substantially in Lee's favour. Few people I've spoken to who've seen the fight tell me that Lee looked a bit rusty, which I guess is understandable. It must have been, you know, somewhere like 1.25 years, 1.5 years since he fought Billy Joe Saunders now, and obviously he's been off the radar since then. But Andy Lee's back in action, and I think that's good to see. You know, Lee's a likeable fella. He's not an old guy. I know he's been on the scene for ages, but he's still got some miles left. And you know, that middleweight division is a strange division, really, because you've obviously got you've got like this top tier. So you've got Golovkin at the top. Daniel Jacobs after the weekend's fight has to be in that mix. And I guess Billy Joe Saunders does as an unbeaten world champion who's beaten the likes of Andy Lee and beaten the likes of Chris Eubank Jr. But, below that tier, you've got a sort of mismatch of fighters who've maybe suffered 1 or 2 losses, who've maybe, been brutalised by Golovkin, etc. And there's actually some decent enough names in that mix. Andy Lee is a classic example. David Lemieux is a classic example. And there's potentially big fights out there for these guys against each other. I mean, let's talk about David Lemieux, Curtis Stevens that happened recently. That's a classic example between two, maybe top 10 guys you'd consider them who lost to Golovkin. And Andy Lee, when you look back at Andy Lee's career, has he had that real career-defining win? Has he got that big name on his resume that's Andy Lee's most notable win? It's kind of hard to pick out a name like that. So, maybe Andy Lee could get involved in a fight with Danny Jacobs. Maybe Andy Lee, Danny Jacobs could happen again. Maybe Andy Lee, Peter Quillen could happen again. Maybe Andy Lee would like to fight David Lemieux. Perhaps names like that are the best route for him and the chance to get some decent paydays and potentially some decent names on his resume before retiring. Switching up to the heavyweight division, Mariusz Wach defeated Erkan Tepe on points, and it's kind of at the stage with Erkan Tepe now where it's pretty clear that he is not even half the fighter he was on performance-enhancing drugs, maybe a quarter of the fighter he was on performance-enhancing drugs, and you've got to wonder what's left for him in the sport now. He's coming off points losses to Christian Hamer, to Mariusz Wach. If he's got any ambitions to be competing at any sort of level, even European level, that seems to have departed with his drugs ban. Mariusz Wach, Christian Hamer, they're not bad fighters, but they're also not the elite, and to lose to them on points suggests it's probably the end of the road for Erkan Tepe, and I don't think that's any bad thing, because I think he's a bad look for the sport, given what's gone on in the past, which we all know about. As for Mariusz Wach, another former drug cheat, by the way, Wach re-enters the mix, I guess, off the back of this win. He'll be on the hunt for a big fight, potentially a European title fight. I don't know if he can get a fight with the likes of Christian Hamer or someone like that. But yeah, Mariusz Wach comes back into the mix, and you never know, you might see him in a big fight at some point soon. Amir Mansour won a close fight on points in the States with Travis Kaufman, so Amir Mansour is another guy who sort of re-enters that top 30 mix. You'd have to have Mansour and Wach probably on the sort of bottom of the top 30 after performances like that. They've secured a semi-relevant win in the context of the heavyweight division, and they come back into the mix. And in the heavyweight division, all you need is one fight of that nature, and maybe one of the big up-and-coming prospects will look at you as an opponent, and you've got a chance to be in a big fight straight away. Bad news, I'm afraid, for Adrian Granat, who, as you guys know, is a friend of the channel. Adrian Granat was knocked out by Alexander Dimitrenko, which is a difficult loss, and in the best possible way, it's not an easy loss to move on from, really, because Dimitrenko, I know Dimitrenko is a big guy. I know he's fought some better names than Adrian Granat had. And I know he's got some sort of high KO percentage. It's clearly Dimitrenko's a very, very big man, and as such he does carry some power. But a loss to Dimitrenko, I guess, does damage, it really does damage Granat's reputation as a prospect. Dimitrenko was kind of at the stage of his career where he was used really as an opponent who laid down against Joseph Parker. And he's come out and stopped Adrian Granat. And I did say in the video before this, it was it was a questionable opponent for me, because the way Dimitrenko performed against Joseph Parker, I think he lost some credibility as an opponent, and I think most people thought Granat was going to, absolutely walk through him. So for Granat to lose under those circumstances is difficult. But I like Granat. Hopefully he can come back. Hopefully he can learn from this experience and rebuild. But it's clearly it's a major setback in the career of a prospect. But there we are, people. I want to know your thoughts. Let me know on Liam Smith. How bizarre do you guys find that? Let me know about Andy Lee. Give me your comments on Mariusz Wach, Amir Mansour, and Dimitrenko Granat as well. As I say, more videos to come on today. We're going to be looking at some of the past weekend's action. Again, we're going to be talking Chocolatito Gonzalez, we're going to be talking more Golovkin. Podcast on Wednesday, and we're also going to be doing some previews for the Crolla Linares fight and some of the undercard bouts there. So if you're new to the channel, you haven't done so before, please take the time to subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favour by clicking the thumbs up button, and as always, leave your comments in the section below and let's discuss. Many thanks indeed for tuning in, people.